This is the English service of Radio Algeria International. It's time for the news.
In today's top stories, in Algeria, the High Security Council, chaired by the President of the Republic, Abdelmadjid Tebboune, has expressed its regret following the hostile actions against Algeria by a brotherly Arab country. The International Court of Justice in The Hague is holding today the first public hearing of the lawsuit filed by the state of South Africa against the Israeli occupying authorities after it accused it of committing genocide against the Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip. The United Nations Security Council has adopted a resolution calling for an immediate halt to Houthi attacks on ships in the Red Sea, calling on all states to respect the arms embargo on the Yemeni rebels as Algeria abstained in the voting. Hello and welcome to Radio Algeria International. I'm Jamal Zmeni. As you followed in our top stories, the President of the Republic, Abdelmadjid Tebboune, Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces and Minister of National Defense, has chaired a meeting of the High Security Council to examine the general situation in the country and the security situation in neighboring countries and in the Sahel, according to a press release. In this respect, the High Security Council expressed its regret following the hostile actions against Algeria by a brotherly Arab country. President Abdelmadjid Tebboune has sent his best wishes to the Algerian people on the occasion of the celebration of the Amazigh year. He wished all Algerians at home and abroad to be filled with blessings, as well as glory and dignity to Algeria, as Ghessem Guess wrote the President of the Republic on his official account. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Nadir Al-Arbawi today presided at the Abdel-Latif Rahal International Conference Center, the awarding ceremony of the President of the Republic's Prize for Amazigh Literature and Language in its 4th edition. The opening ceremony of this year's prize, organized to mark the celebration of the Amazigh New Year 2974 under the slogan, Yenayer, an authentic cultural treasure and a crucible for sustainable development. The Council of the Nation has taken via video conference in the meeting of the Executive Committee of the Interparliamentary Union. The Upper House of Parliament was represented at the meeting by Ahmed Karshi, Deputy Chairman of the Council and member of the IPU Executive Committee. The meeting was devoted to discussing the presentation by its President Tulia Axon, elected last October, on the priorities of her mandate in the context of the organization's strategy and its conformity with the Union's general theme for 2024 on strengthening international peace and security. Now, the Speaker of the National People's Assembly, Brahim Boughali, has called for Tehran for an immediate halt to the Zionist aggression against the Gaza Strip and for urgent and unconditional aid to be delivered. In his address to an emergency meeting of the Standing Committee on Palestine of the Parliamentary Union of Member States of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, in his capacity as acting President of the Union, Brahim Boughali considered that the aggression against Gaza and the shelling of homes, places of worship, hospitals and schools are a crime against humanity. The International Court of Justice in The Hague is holding today the first public hearing of the lawsuit filed by the state of South Africa against the Israeli occupying authorities after it accused it of committing genocide against the Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip. On December 29th, South Africa filed a lawsuit against the Israeli regime, the occupying power, against the backdrop of its involvement in acts of genocide against Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip. Today, the court, with its 15-judge panel, heard the state of South Africa and its legal team. On Friday, the court will hear the Israeli occupier, and then the session will be adjourned to consider urgent procedures and measures. South Africa submitted an 84-page appeal in English in which it presents evidence that the Zionist regime has violated its obligations under the United Nations Charter and its involvement in committing acts of genocide against the Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip. asked by the potential outcome of the case filed by South Africa at the International Court of Justice, California-based political analyst Hamoud Salhi has this to say.
This case has the potential to indict the Zionist states and hold it accountable before international law for committing crimes against humanity. In addition, it has another potential since South Africa is asking the ICJ to order Israel to immediately suspend its military operation. That would be a huge impact as well. And finally, this has the potential to bring the International Criminal Court, under the International Criminal Court, those responsible for committing genocide against the Palestinians, namely the Israeli leaders. And so this could create a momentum for that and gives another reason why the Israelis, the Zionists who are responsible for committing these crimes need to bring to justice.
Speaking about the challenges that South Africa could encounter in presenting its case before the International Court of Justice, Mr. Salhi said the following.
The biggest challenge is enforcing the court decision should the ICJ rules in favor of the Palestinians that the act committed were genocide. The ICJ has no mechanism to enforce states to abide by international law. Because of this, the Zionist states can ignore any decision that the court may make under the claim it was unfair. The current attacks in the media launched by the United States and Israel against South Africa are clearly designed to delegitimize the ICJ decision and eventually minimize its impact in the public eyes. This is all designed to challenge the court decision, which could prove one of the other major areas that any decision that the ICJ would make need to be looked at.
Speaking to reporters, the permanent representative of the State of Palestine, Riyad Mansour, has hailed South Africa's move in The Hague, saying the act of genocide is crystal clear.
We are very grateful to the government of South Africa for taking this very important and highly moral position. Nobody would question that a country like South Africa, which defeated apartheid, that it is not on the top of the mountain of morality and respect for human rights and the rights of people in general. So we are grateful to them. The briefing of South Africa of about 84, 85 pages is public, and it's crystal clear for those who are fair and objective in listening, to the articulation of the position. Israel on Friday will give their known narrative. We expect maybe before the end of this month that the court will make a decision. We sincerely hope that the decision will be, if not explicit, as we'd love to call for a ceasefire, so to have enough time after that to deal with the case and the merit of the case and the intent.
The Belgian Deputy Prime Minister Petra de Sutter has expressed her support for the complaint filed by South Africa, underlining that Belgium should act in the same way. De Sutter added that she fully supports the arguments put forward by South Africa in filing its complaint before the ICJ against the Zionist entity. The Arab League, Libya, Indonesia, among other a large number of countries around the world have expressed their support with South Africa in this case. Now, the United Nations Security Council has adopted a resolution calling for an immediate halt to Houthi attacks on ships in the Red Sea, calling on all states to respect the arms embargo on the Yemeni rebels. Saeed Bougazi has the details.
The resolution prepared by the United States and Japan, adopted by 11 votes with 4 abstentions, Russia, China, Algeria and Mozambique, condemns in the strongest terms the attacks, at least 24, against merchant and commercial vessels since 19 November 2023, the date on which they seized the Galaxy leader and its 25 crew members. The resolution demands that the Houthis put an immediate end to such attacks which impede international trade and undermine the rights and freedoms of navigation, as well as peace and security in the region. The Council, insisting on respect for international law, takes note of the right of member states to defend ships against attack. Since the start of the Zionist aggression on the Gaza Strip on 7 October, the Houthis, who control a large part of Yemen, have stepped up their attacks in the Red Sea, saying that they are acting in solidarity with the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. Israel's main ally, the United States, in December set up an international coalition to protect maritime traffic from attacks by the Houthis in this strategic area where 12% of world trade transits. A coalition denounced by Russia. We cannot fail to be concerned about the current situation in the Red Sea, but we are concerned that the United States and its allies prefer, as they often do, to opt for a unilateral solution by force, denounced Russian ambassador to the UN, Vasily Nebenzia.
Regarding Algeria's abstention at the UN Security Council on voting on the resolution, Algeria's ambassador to the UN, Ammar Ben Jama, said the following.
La délégation a activement travaillé pour que notre Conseil.
The delegation has been active in ensuring that our Council, in its consideration of the issue of maritime security in the Red Sea, does not ignore and turn a blind eye to the obvious link between the Houthi attacks on the commercial vessels and what has been going on in Gaza for the past 3 months. The Council cannot ignore the emotions stirred up in the Arab and Muslim world by the indiscriminated bombardment of the innocent population and by the massacres perpetrated against women and children, which have left more than 23,000 civilians dead among the Palestinian civilian population. Now, for the past 3 months, we are at an average rate of 300 deaths per day. It is the deadliest conflict in the world. For this reason, we have preferred to abstain on this document.
Voilà pourquoi nous avons préféré nous abstenir.
The United Nations has said that the Gaza Strip continues to suffer from intense bombardments that have caused many casualties and destroyed vital civilian infrastructure. The spokesman for the UN Secretary-General, Stéphane Dujarric, underlined at a regular press briefing the growing concerns of humanitarian partners about the restrictions on access, particularly in areas north of Wadi Gaza. Said Bouazi reports.
The spokesman for the UN Secretary-General Stéphane Dujarric noted that the intensification of hostilities in the regions of Deir el-Balah and Khan Yunis is leading to an increase in the number of casualties, insecurity and significant obstacles to the delivery of aid.
Humanitarian partners continue to raise concerns over repeated denials of access to areas north of Wadi Gaza. They're also increasingly warning of a potential collapse of health services in Deir el-Balah and Khan Yunis, where hostilities have intensified, resulting in more casualties, insecurity, and impediments to aid delivery. The ongoing hostilities in Deir el-Balah and Khan Yunis, coupled with evacuation orders in nearby areas, are putting 3 hospitals at the risk of closures, and that's the Al-Aqsa, the Nasser, and the Gaza European Hospital. Yesterday, more shelling was also reported near Al-Aqsa Hospital in Deir el-Balah. Our humanitarian partners tell us that as of yesterday, just 1/5 of the 5,000 beds needed to meet trauma and emergency needs in Gaza are available. And out of 77 primary health centers, more than 3/4 are not functioning, leaving many people in Gaza without access to basic health services.
He said the crisis is also having an impact on people suffering from chronic and mental illnesses. Some 350,000 people with chronic illnesses and around 485,000 people suffering from mental health problems continue to have their treatment interrupted in Gaza.
These internally displaced by the conflict there, that's some 1.9 million men, women, and children, are at high risk of communicable diseases due to poor living conditions, overcrowding shelters, and lack of access to proper wastewater sanitation and hygiene facilities. The combination of water trucking, desalinated water, and the restoration of one of the three main water supply lines late last month has yielded just 7% of water production in Gaza compared with the water supply before October 7th.
Stefan Dujarric mentioned efforts by humanitarian partners to develop sanitation services in Rafah and Khan Yunis, noting that aid organizations continue to face major operational challenges, including equipment shortages and logistical difficulties.
This is Radio Algeria International. Now I invite you to listen to the first part of an interview with radio journalist Mahfoud Karkar from the southern province of Ghardaya on the Amazigh New Year Yenair.
Our Talk. A weekly program with guests activated in different fields.
Listeners, and welcome on our waves. In our talk today, we are happy to have in our studio Mahfoud Karkar, a radio journalist and correspondent, to talk about the celebration of Yenair, the Amazigh New Year. Mahfoud, welcome on our waves.
Thank you, dear Asia, and good morning or good afternoon for dear auditors of Radio Algeria International.
Thank you. So, Mahfoud, let's go over the celebration of the Amazigh New Year in general. What does it signify for North Africans?
For North African, let's say that this year is 2974 according to the agrarian calendar. So celebrating Yenair or Yenar, in Ghardaya we call it Yenar, it means the new year. It's glory, it's a kind of glory, it's a kind of keep in touch with history, keep in touch with identity. Let's say like this.
Mm-hmm. So what's the difference between the Yenair celebrations before and now?
Nowadays it's high technology making. Nowadays it is a kind of multimedia, it's modelization. But people still keep on celebrating Yenair as part of identity. So it means when they celebrate Yenair or Yenar, it is a direct invitation for celebration, for joy, for happiness, for family gathering, etc. So it's still a kind of sweet days, it's a kind of family gathering and meeting. Now people, they have to keep touch on these celebrations as we celebrate Eid al-Fitr, as we celebrate Eid al-Adha, etc. Let's celebrate Yenair. It means where there is a meeting, where there is a sign of happiness, where there is a sign of meeting and family gathering, we have to keep in touch with it.
Do you feel that it is not celebrated as it used to be before? It is not celebrated enough, let's say?
I think that now it is celebrated. Otherwise, I'll talk to you about what was happening in Ghardaya, for example. According to some historians and our teachers and notables, it was a kind of hidden celebration. It wasn't really made with big signs, etc. But now it is a new era for celebrating Yenair, because if we don't organize another thing with celebration, if we don't give a big importance, I think that this Yenair, this celebration will collapse in technology, because nowadays you have to imagine people nowadays, everyone in the family, he has his phone. It means they are not talking, they are not speaking, they are not sharing what is history, they are not sharing what is traditional ways of living, they are not sharing what is customs, etc. Now people, they have imagined or they have created a new way of celebration of Yennayer. It is by exhibitions, it is by making chorus, it is made by open air exhibitions of handicrafts, etc.
So concerts, for example.
And concerts, etc. And I think that now Yennayer is another way of tourism. For example, in Ghardaya now and in other parts of Algeria, people or agencies, touristic agencies, are inviting people, organizing trips on the occasion of Yennayer. So it is an invitation for people to celebrate Yennayer and to discover Algeria.
Mm-hmm. So do you see the Amazigh New Year as an event that reflects Algeria's diversity or unity?
Both of them. I think both of them are really to say, because if we say origin is part of the identity and vice versa. I think that if we still keep in our origin, if we still keep in our identity, it is in order to strengthen the diversity of Algeria. That I think that everyone in Algeria has to acknowledge what is the other. And if we celebrate Yennayer, we have to celebrate other parts of Algeria's festivities. It means if we celebrate Yennayer as an identity, it's not we are losing the other people's identity in Algeria. So it's part of the whole Algeria's identity, and it's high time to be proud of this identity and to be proud of this diversity.
Mm-hmm. Isn't it amazing the different cultures that we have in Algeria, and despite of all these differences, we all celebrate a single event like Yennayer, but differently?
I think that I have to mention something, that the Algeria's high authorities, when they thought about creating or making of January 12th a national day every year, I think it's a really good idea. Why? Because people are going to feel at ease. People are going to feel in rest to celebrate this Yennayer, this celebration. I think that it's a good way, or it's a good occasion to share all celebrations in Algeria. We can see how it is celebrated in Ghardaya, how it is celebrated in Oran, how it is celebrated in Tlemcen, how it is celebrated in Tamarast, how it is celebrated in Annaba, in Constantine. I think it's a whole Algeria is celebrating this Yennayer.
Making of this day a national day is also maybe an encouragement for people to cherish this day, to celebrate it, to keep reiterating their Amazigh identity as well.
For this, I told you that these touristic agencies, they are clever, I think. They are clever because they are encouraging tourism, and in the same time they are encouraging and they inviting people to keep in touch with traditions and keep in touch with the customs. One of them is this Yennayer. We find touristic agencies inviting people for a whole ceremony about Yennayer. If it is organized in Tizi Ouzou, or organized in Bijaya, or organized in Ghardaya, it means it is an invitation for people in the north of Algeria to go to Tamarast or to go to Ghardaya, to discover, to see the country, and at the same time to discover what they have as customs, what they have as traditions there. One of it is celebrating Yennayer or Yennar.
Great. So, Mahfoud, now tell us, how is Yennayer celebrated indoors in different cities? Then we go to your beautiful city, Ghardaya.
It is the same, I think. It's the same because they celebrate it on January 12th. We can say it is a general joy in Algeria for the Amazigh in Algeria. There are different ways, but I have to talk about it because I do master what I have in Ghardaya, for example. In Ghardaya, we start celebrating Yennar or Yennayer. We call it Yennar in Ghardaya. It is the meaning of New Year in Mozambique language. Yennar. So when we celebrate Innar, we celebrate it on the eve of the 7th. It means January the 6th. We meet in the same house and we prepare many dishes. For example, the famous dish, we call it tarfis. It is made with crepe, and we grind this crepe into pieces, and then we mix it with pure butter, and then we make it in a recipient, in a great recipient, and we cover it with a napkin. It is made with woolen stripe, with a yellowish and reddish color, and then we stick 4 palm trees leaves together. We put them together, and we invite the elder in the house. It means the grandfather or the grandmother. He is the first to open this big recipient containing rafis, and this rafis is made with eggs. We boil eggs, and I told you butter, and we make also some dates, and also the resin, dried resins. We make them all together, and I told you the elder, the grandfather or the grandmother, is going to open this recipient. He is going to start eating, then invite the other members of the family to start eating. When we finish the whole ceremony, the elder is asked to make a prayer. Why to make a prayer? In order to have a good year, a sweet year. In order to have a good year, no problems, and also in the eve of the 7th, the whole family is going to be there in the house. Cousins, we have uncles, we have aunts, we have nephews, all are going to be there. If we have a new bride, she is going to put on her traditional clothing and with plenty of jewelry. So she is going to have a set, and everybody is going to stay together, and we are going to sip tea. For tomorrow, so after we finish this ceremony, as I told you, the elder, maybe the grandfather or the grandmother, is going to pray for Allah that we have a good New Year. Before we finish the ceremony, there is a small meeting between the men. Why? Because they are going to discuss about the last year. It is a kind of assessment. It is a kind of assessment, especially for agriculture. And then it is to prepare the new year, to prepare new agriculture year, especially if it's a peasant family. Why we call it Yinair? Yinair is done for the peasant family. It's up to them to create this idea, because in Gardaya we have harsh climate. It's harsh climate conditions. So for this we start celebrating Yinair or Yinnar from the 6th up to 12th of January. And when they meet, they have to assess what they have done and to prepare what is going to be done the next year.
Only in terms of agriculture?
Yes, it is. When we talk about Yinair, it is stick to agriculture. This is what we call a new agrarian calendar. This is what we call. And let me tell you, a small poet, it's written by a friend of me. He is a researcher in Tamazight language, but he has written it in in English language. It's a small poem, but it is sincere with agriculture. It is sincere about Yinair. It tells the facts, what we have to do, what the family has to do in order to prepare for the new year, for Yinair. So he say, now time to beat drums when February comes, just to sweep barns and clean date palms.
That's beautiful.
So it means now we are in January and soon it is February. So for the peasant family, they have to prepare themselves, because it is spring coming, the New Year and spring coming. So when spring is coming, we have to finish all other works, labor land, pruning the fruit trees and preparing the land and to cultivate, waiting for spring and then waiting for summer.
That's amazing.